Welcome back. South Africa's first mobile bathroom for the homeless is treating people on the streets of Cape Town to a hot shower. The Nina Manzi bus is a partnership between Viva Con Agua, Baz-Art and U-Turn Homeless Ministries. The bus is kitted out with showering and ablution facilities. To tell us more about this amazing initiative is Rowan Rivera-Bauer from U-Turn. She joins us now. A very good morning to you, Rowan, and thank you so much for your time. I mean, absolutely amazing initiative that you've got going here that I think, a lot of South Africans will be hoping, is essentially rolled out throughout the country. But let's start with why. I mean, understandably, it would be because you want to help the homeless, but just the thought behind this initiative.
So the initiative is really being driven by Viva Con Agua, an organization that really believes in the right to water and the dignity that comes with that, the right to, and access to clean water. They've rolled out this mobile bus in partnership with Baz-Art and U-Turn. And really the relationship that U-Turn played in this initiative was assisting Viva Con Agua to do the research around it and to ensure that what they were providing was what was needed, that it addressed the issue, that it was providing a meaningful service. And we, of course, were deeply grateful because U-Turn's program, it's a multi-phase program that creates a pathway out of homelessness. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's a pyramid that looks at your development. And unless you're taking care of your very basics, your food, your access to a safe space to sleep, your warmth, and access to water and cleanliness and hygiene, it becomes very hard to look at all the deeper things that a person is dealing with. So that's really the first stepping stone, is giving someone the basic needs. This is what everyone should need. And when they've got access to those basic needs, then they can start digging deep and start working on themselves and moving towards realizing their dreams. And we've got some amazing stories of people who've come through homelessness, are doing amazing things with their lives after they were given that starting block of basic needs.
And that's really what it is, isn't it, Rowan? Just showing the person that that they do have that dignity, that integrity, that just because they are homeless, it doesn't mean that they are now to be discarded, to be forgotten about, to not be shown that respect as a human being first and foremost. And I would imagine that is what the three parties, the three stakeholders involved in this were actually thinking, is that, the person who is homeless is not somebody who's just now an ordinary person that must just be ignored and looked past.
That's right. You're 100% correct. So I think the average individual on the street really has lost hope. They truly believe that they are not able to do anything else with their lives. There are no opportunities. They face some very stiff odds in our country. We have well over 50% unemployment for youth in our country. That was before COVID. And the majority of the people on our streets are youth. They're aged 18 to 35. You have your outliers who are, in their late 60s, but the majority of the persons living on our streets are youth. And they just believe that there's absolutely no hope, that they come from a legacy where there is no opportunities for them. And so having that first shower is really it's a simple thing. It's a very simple thing, but it helps to restore them. It helps them to get ready for that enormous journey that they have ahead of them, to rebuild their sense of potential and worth, and to realize that they can do astounding things. I will mention one story for you, sir, of a gentleman called Maliklale Sikungo, who is now actually a spokesperson for U-Turn. He last year qualified for his law degree, and that was after many, many years on and off the street, struggling with addiction. And so what I mention his story to illustrate the fact that if you can take care of those basic needs, people have enormous potential and dreams. And if we can help them with that, we can then help them with the stepping stones towards living a full life. And that benefits everyone.
There are a number of positive stories I can imagine, just like this man who's now, of course, completing his law degree. But then everything does have its challenges, everything does have its downs. As much as there are the ups, and that's what we want to focus on, there are the downs as well. What has the Nina Manzi bus and just this initiative itself experienced in terms of challenges?
Well, there's always logistical issues. So the bus does need to be connected to mains, and so there were struggles around that. When you're working with a partnership, of course, there's coordination issues that you're trying to navigate. But the key thing is that really all of these challenges are easily overcome if you are able to just have the dialogue and have the conversation and be open to that conversation. So really, although there may have been some struggles along the way, and there always are, they really are not a highlight in this at all, because if anything, it has been, a really wonderful experience, I think, for all parties concerned. There's been a lot of good conversations. I think Viva Con Agua and the staff there have learned a lot about homelessness. We've enjoyed meeting with them. We've enjoyed sharing about this complex issue. And so there's been a lot of learning on both sides.
When I come across such initiatives, that are usually done by, individuals and maybe even corporates, I always am interested to find out the involvement of provincial or even municipal government. Have you guys had any kinds of conversation with the Western Cape government to try and get them involved to maybe just amplify what it is you're doing?
Well, we had Ward Councillor Christie of Ward 58 in Cape Town attending the event. There's an enormous amount of support. I've been around long enough now working with U-Turn and navigating relationships with city and provincial to know that there's an enormous amount of goodwill, but there are structures in place that can be frustrating. I think as frustrating for the people on the ground as it is for the officials who are navigating them, and it's part of democracy. So, there are tenders to be submitted, there's paperwork to be done, things can be slow. And so they've been enormously supportive in terms of joining the dots and making connections. Obviously never is smooth sailing, but there's an enormous amount of goodwill. There's a huge growing awareness, both provincially and within the city of Cape Town, about the need to start thinking more strategically about homelessness, to take it seriously and to invest in sustainable solutions. A cup of soup in a blanket isn't going to cut it. Viva Con Agua is very aware of the fact that this is just the start. A shower is not going to fix someone's life. It's not going to turn their life around. But it's an enormously powerful starting point. And so there's a shift in the city and provincial. And for me, that is incredibly optimistic. I'm looking forward to working more with them and seeing if we can shift the dial a little bit more significantly.
You come across a skeptic who then wonders, would this not then essentially encourage homelessness? If a homeless person is seeing that this is what can be done for them, why then just not stay on the streets?
Yeah, it's a question I encounter frequently. The reality is that in Cape Town alone, there's the number, depending on the numbers that you accept, there's between 6,000 to 14,000 individuals sleeping on the street. We face a chronic problem across our country, and it's a legacy that plays into the picture. I know many people will feel frustrated with me saying that is the reality we face. We face an gross inequality in pay and wages. So you have individuals really struggling to survive. And so, homelessness is going to be existing whether or not you provide a shower. You cannot turn a blind eye. If you turn a blind eye, this problem will get bigger. It is not going to go away. And so providing a shower to any skeptic, I say, really, the shower is just the beginning. It is tied to a very well-tracked, reputable developmental program. 80% of U-Turn graduates remain employed and sober. It really is a case of just saying to individuals, please give responsibility to people on the streets. Don't just ignore them. They do need help. But if you give something like a voucher that connects them to a reputable program with a pathway out of homelessness, it's the kind of thing you can give a person, is give them a future.
Just back to my very, very first point before we began this conversation about the rollout countrywide. I mean, I would imagine running a bus of this nature is not cheap. Nothing in this country is cheap given the cost of living. But how realistic would it be to roll something like this out nationwide? So
I would be speaking on behalf of Viva Con Agua, and it's something that I couldn't speak into with absolute knowledge. There was funding involved in this, and you are right, it wasn't cheap as far as I'm aware. But once you've done something once, you have something of a model, and it then becomes easier to roll out. And I speak from U-Turn's perspective on this too. We've also struggled to increase capacity and reach the vast numbers of people that we're needing to reach. But we've now grown, and once you do it once, it becomes easier the second time and the third time and the fourth time. And so as we become wiser and smarter in the way that we are approaching this issue, it becomes faster and quicker and cheaper. But of course, there's always need for support. We always need the community to come on board and say, okay, this is a good initiative. We want to get behind it. We want to push it forward. And the more people who do that, of course, the more we are able to do.
This is an absolutely amazing initiative, and congratulations and well done to you guys as U-Turn Ministries, of course, as well as Viva Con Agua and Baz-Art. And thank you so much for joining us here on ENCA this morning. That is Rowan Rivera Bauer from the Christian NGO U-Turn.